Hi everyone, my name's Carl and I'm going to give you a processing, star photography processing video. But before I do that, let me just give you a quick demo of Stellarium, how I use it for when I'm scouting for night shots. Okay, it's in the other space. Right, so this is Lusaka, as you can see down here, where I am here in Zambia at the moment. Let's get the date and time window up. Okay, so I'm going, you can just scroll through the different times. Let's see, notice the Milky Way at the moment. This is the brightest part. Um, and as we go through the night, you'll notice that it's sinking rather fast. So if I was going to take any photos, it would have to be around 8 o'clock to get this part of the Milky Way. But then also, we could get these two dwarf galaxies that are appearing in the south. And let's see what time the moon gets up. There you go, the moon's rising at almost 2 a.m. And yeah, so it's a pretty useful application, but that's just a quick demo. I might start trying to do some new shots in the west next week. We'll see how we go. But let's go over to Lightroom. I'm going to demo this photo here I took in Nepal a couple of weeks ago. This is the golf course at Gokana Resort. Let's show you the G for grid, gives me the grid view. This is the final version that we'll get to. I'm not going to show you every step just because I'm just going to go through the Lightroom process, and then there's Photoshop steps as well. So that's the final version. But let's start with a raw file. Okay, so this is what it looked like straight out of camera. Basically, I just want to go through all the different steps in the Lightroom edit menu. But first of all, let's just go through some things to remember when you're shooting stars. Every pic is different. Every picture that you take of the night sky is going to be different, just because of the different atmosphere conditions, different moon phases, different lighting. So yeah, there's so many different variables. So these settings aren't going to work for every photo, but hopefully you'll get the idea. Okay, so this is hole number one. Let's go through my initial settings. Okay, so I took it at 8 o'clock at night, 12th of September. Okay, so it's a 30-second photo, f2.8 with my Samyang 14mm lens, and ISO 3200. So, and let's over here you can see the histogram. It's quite nicely spread for a night photo. So not too bad. My settings on my camera were set at 3700 Kelvin for the white balance temperature. So that's what I found works out the best. I can edit it after, of course, but for in camera, that's most useful for me. But yeah, let's just play with these settings here. First of all, there's a couple of things I always do first. Lens corrections. Let's enable Nikon. Okay, it automatically picks up the Samyang and corrects it. It's not completely necessary for this photo because the horizon is not level, but it does help with the vignetting and different lighting. I see it change the histogram a lot. Also, if we zoom into some of the stars, okay, my computer's a little slow, but we're going to remove chromatic aberration, and it doesn't actually do anything when you tick the box. You got to put it up to like 3 or 4. I normally go about 4. And these up here, the stars will, let's turn that off and back on. You should be able to notice a tiny little difference. Removes the purple around some of the stars that you'll find. Okay, so let's zoom back out with the Z button, Z key. Okay. Yes, this profile that I used for the Samyang, I downloaded it from David King's website, this one here. It's, yeah, he recommends this lens, and it's got some crazy distortion, but it's got instructions there, and you can download it, and it tells you how to install. So I recommend that. So also, if you come over here, he's got a whole bunch of stuff under the night menu. So come check out his website. I'll put the link in the comments, in the description. But he's got a whole bunch of presets here that are pretty handy. So you can download them for free. And I don't use them too much, but for this one I will. Let me just show you. We'll start with that now. I'm gonna put in the reduce light pollution. Try and get rid of some of the light pollution that Kathmandu, because I was in pretty much on the outskirts of Kathmandu, Nepal. Okay, just gonna go away. There we go. So, okay, that's, you can see that's reduced a little bit. So now let's go back up here. Because of this type of lens, you can see up in the corners, depending on the type of distortion it is, it has warped the image completely, and so I usually press this button here, constrain to warp, so that I don't get the, oh, let me just escape and zoom in. So you can see that there, which we don't want. So this constrain to warp button, my computer's a little slow, sorry. Okay, so that'll cut out those distortions in each corner. Alright. Okay, so now exposure to me is a little bright, so but it's not too bad, so I'll just drop it maybe just a little bit. Oh, that's a bit too much. Oh, I think I like that. And normally I jump straight down to clarity, where because that really pumps the stars. So let's put it up to, so you can see the stars looking quite nice there. But because there's so much foreground, I had a moon right behind me. I think it was about 30% bright, and onto my right there was a golf club and restaurant that was putting light onto the place, the tee off at the top of the hole number 1. So this clarity is kind of ruining my foreground, especially with all the grass. So what I'm going to do is dial it back. So we'll leave it there for now. Contrast is always nice with star photography. So you can see all the way. Too dark, not enough. I generally, yeah, around 30 to 40 should be good. Okay, so this highlights and saturation, that was set by when we did that preset for the light pollution. So I'm going to leave that there, but let me just show you. Yeah, brighten that middle section there. There's actually a little town behind the trees that you can't see, but it was really brightening up the sky. So I think 60 is probably alright there. I like that. To me, the shadows are a bit bright because when I was standing there, it wasn't really that dark. I mean, that bright, sorry. So maybe we drop them to, yeah, 30 or so. 32, minus 32. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm in the histogram up here. There's the whites, the highlights, the exposure, the shadows, and the blacks. So now we're going to adjust the blacks. It seems a little bit unusual to drop the shadows and brighten the blacks, but it's how I like to do it a little bit. So yeah, maybe around there. That looks good, I think. Yep. And the whites, hopefully this will brighten up the stars. See if you would. Okay, so put it up all the way out there. Oh, that's too much. Okay, so maybe we'll put it around 20. Okay, that's alright. Clarity we've already talked about. Saturation, I think it's a bit too green in the foreground, so I'm just going to drop it to 0. So I think that's alright. That looks a little bit okay. What else is there? So the tone curve, that was another thing that was adjusted by the preset. So I'm just going to leave that as is. Looks alright to me. Detail. So this is the noise and sharpening control. Okay, so for me, sharpening looks best. Let's zoom into the stars. I've got the Nikon D600, so every camera is different. But normally I sharpen around 60 in most photos. But this one's a little too much. So maybe we drop it around 40. Remember, this is just global adjustments. You can do targeted adjustments later. And this is a cool tool here. Let's zoom out. Right, so this masking, if you hold down Option and drag this slider, will get you a black and white image. And the higher you go, the less is actually sharpened. So what I'm doing here is reducing I'm keeping the sharpening just to the brighter stars really. And that will reduce the amount of noise that is generated by the sharpening function. Okay, so let's zoom in there again. Okay, this okay, so let's look at noise reduction now. I normally find around 30, 32. That's where I generally go to. Okay, do you see the jump there? Okay, that's without, and that's with the sharpening and the noise reduction. So it looks a little soft. Maybe we could put the sharpening back up a little. But the noise is generally gone, so that's right. Remember, this is 100%. So that looks alright there. But when you actually do noise reduction, you lose a lot of the stars. So if we, let me just for example's sake, drop that back down to 10 or 13. Yeah, there we go. 10. Should see lots of stars reappear. Yeah, there we go. See, they've got a few more. So, but for now, we'll leave it at maybe we'll compromise. As you can see in the demo, in the preview, sorry, there's a lot more noise than in that earlier one, so maybe let's go to 23. We can have it like that. Alright, so that's detail, yeah. If there's still much of a vignette, you can increase it, you can decrease it. It's not really working there, is it? Not showing up. There you go. But I think it's fine. So we'll just leave it off. I think that's all. You can make it maybe. I think that's fine, really. Now, one thing, what you can do now. So we talked about clarity before. What we can do now is we can come over here and save a snapshot, and we can call this one sky. Actually, no, let's call this one foreground. Okay. And then for the sky, we'll put the clarity up. That looks alright. A bit more punch in the sky. And we'll also, yeah, I think that's all. So then we can make another preset, or another snapshot, sorry. We'll call this one the sky. And then you can switch between these two snapshots easily and export this one to Photoshop and then the second one to Photoshop as well. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for Lightroom. As you can see, let's press the backslash to give us the before version. Okay, so my computer died a little bit, but I think I should be able to resume now. So let's look at before and after here. So here's a snapshot of how we had the sky with the clarity up, and the foreground one, which I like better because of the tree, I guess, the foreground, but you can blend them later in Photoshop. Also notice that when you do put the clarity up, you get a nasty halo around the edges of your around the edges of the foreground, the trees there. Okay, so there's the foreground, and if we come down to the bottom of what we've done, we can look at before. Okay, so we've changed it quite a bit, and I think it's looking pretty good now. But for the final image that I made, showed you before, show you again in a second, what I did was I blended two images, one with high clarity, one with lower clarity. So let's press G to see them now. Let's look at this one here. So this is after one of the edits. You can see more stars in this one. I think that's because I used a lower luminance noise reduction number. But okay, so now let's go over this final version. I've reduced the foreground a little bit more to make it a little bit more realistic, because to the natural eye, the moon was definitely not that bright. I gave a little bit of a, I guess, a darker, stronger vignette. But what I mainly used to do all the editing in the sky was Dave Morrow, who I've mentioned on my blog. His tutorials have been pretty great. That's how I got into all this, so I recommend checking out this. He's got a free starter photography tutorial, but he's also got, yeah, check out the raw file to that one. That's pretty nice. But he's charging $20, and I think it's quite worth it for the videos that he provides. He'll send you the raw file for this photo too, so you can work along with that. What another thing is he uses is selections to change the contrast. Selective contrast adjustments is the best way to make just make the sky looking great. So what included in his download was, for me, I got his luminance mask actions, which I don't have Photoshop open, sorry. But they pretty much will give you a whole bunch of different settings. If you haven't heard of them, check it out. It's pretty interesting. So here, you can download them for free around different places on the web. Check out Jimmy McIntyre's website here, throughstrangelenses.com. I'll put the link in the description. He's an awesome photographer. He's doing a whole bunch of free tutorials at the moment. So there's a digital blending HDR mega pack that he's got. You just have to follow him on Facebook and stuff, so check that out. But down here at the moment, you can, it's on a number of his blog sites, but I'll just put a link, his blog post, but I'll put a link to this Collywell Bay post. Yeah, so he's got different luminance mask actions completely free that you can download. Well worth it. Then start getting into the contrast adjustments that you can learn about in his digital blending. So try that first. If you're still not satisfied, definitely get onto Dave Morrow's tutorial, because they're pretty good. So that's pretty much it. I don't want to go into too much more detail to give away pretty much what those guys are selling. You'll also notice that I cleaned up the image a little bit, got rid of these little dots here with the clone tool, and that light there, I got rid of that in the final version. I think I just might crop this though a little bit more. I just pressed the R tool, by the way, to get to the crop tool. So let's go from this corner. I just want to get rid of this tree here that you can see, so we don't want that in the image. Okay, I think that's looking good now. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, done. Yeah. So hope you guys learn a little bit there. There's the final image. Let's turn the lights off. I hope you guys enjoy, and check out the blog post for an Instagram competition that I am, Instagram and Facebook hashtag competition, even Twitter actually, that I'll be launching along with the blog post, so check that out. Alright guys, thanks for listening and watching.